Welcome back to our second segment of NFL draft grades, and today we are covering the NFC East division. And the NFC East division had a lot of top picks. Giants and Redskins were both up there. Giants picking 4, Redskins picking 2. And this division was honestly a very weak division, so they had a lot of high drafts capital. And let's get right into it with the team with our highest grade, the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin, tell us what the Dallas Cowboys really did well in this draft.
Well, I think you can start this draft by saying they got really lucky having a couple of teams let CeeDee Lamb drop right to them. He fell right into their laps. That was something they didn't really need, but the rich get richer in this case, and now they have CeeDee Lamb to run the slot, which is going to be deadly. So now you got CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper. That's a deadly trio. Trayvon Diggs was a great value pick in round 2. Going to fill the Byron Jones need that they had there at corner. Very good young corner. Neville Gallimore, grade 3 technique at defensive tackle. He's going to eat some time with Gerald McCoy, their defensive lineman they have. Reggie Robinson, another good cornerback they picked up. Tyler Biadasz. He is a developmental center who probably won't start right away, but eventually could be a great center. Bradley and I had some of the most sacks in the country, and Ben DiNucci, a winning quarterback for James Madison, who historically has been a very good FCS school. So
Yeah, I think they were able to acquire a good amount of talent in positions of need in their top 3 picks. With Byron Jones departing, they needed a player in the secondary. Trevon Diggs is that he can step in right away and play. Neville Gallimore will be able to replace Malik Collins on the inside and fill up that hole in the defensive tackle and help the run stopping. The only hole they really weren't able to fill was the edge rusher as the departure of Robert Quinn. But when you have all these defensive players leave, you can't fill every hole in the draft. And getting a top tier talent like CeeDee Lamb Fulton was very lucky. Could they have went defense there? Yes, they could have. Would have been a good pick as well, definitely. But if Lamb is able to go in there and get enough targets, be happy with his production, with probably numbers he wouldn't like as much as he would on another team where he's not the number one option, I think that their draft class is very solid.
yeah, I really liked what they did. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to help open up a lot. Like they're going to have a lot more coverage from the defense. The defense are going to be attracted to their receivers, leaving Zeke for bigger holes, which is going to improve everybody's value. Plus, I also like Bradley and I's fit. 5th round, that's an absolute steal and a half. I think he's going to be a great defensive prospect.
Yeah, they really added a lot of talent. Now, the team picking the highest in the NFC East is the Washington Redskins, and they had a no-brainer here, taking Chase Young. There was some Tua speculation, but ultimately they decided to give Haskins a chance, as they should. And honestly, besides Chase Young, their draft class really wasn't that great. They didn't have a second round pick, took a wide receiver in the 3rd round, Antonio Gibson, solid player, not a number 1 wide receiver. They're hoping Terry can develop into the number 1 wide receiver. But this added a lot of depth across the board. Chase Young was the most dominant player in the class, obviously. But other than Chase Young, they really didn't do all of that. It bodes well for their front 7. They should have an elite front 7 next year. The problem is the rest of their roster is terrible.
Yeah, I agree. I think their front 7 is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future coming years. Chase Young plus like the entire Alabama former defensive line. It feels like Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and a few other guys. But Chase Young, obviously best player in the draft, basically gives them the B minus. And then the 2 Antonios I really liked. Antonio Gibson, he can kind of do it all on offense, but I still think Lynn Bowden was probably a better utility fit there. I think he fit what they want to run more, considering they lost Chris Thompson. But Antonio Gibson should do fine. Antonio Gandy Golden, their other receiver, I'm a big fan of his. He can pick up anything. He kind of gives me Terry McLaurin type of vibes, like somebody that's going to come in kind of unnoticed and do really well. And Sadiq Charles from LSU, they're hoping can start where Trent Williams probably wouldn't have, but same position.
Yeah, their offensive line's going to be, boy oh boy, not very good next year. With Trent Williams leaving, and I guess you can say Eric Flowers leaving, he played decent at guard for them last year. So losing two starters on the offensive line and not being able to acquire, honestly, a starting caliber offensive lineman, especially when one of those guys is your Hall of Fame left tackle. Dwayne Haskins is going to be roughed up next year. And I think the only issue with Washington is you're not going to be able to judge if Haskins is good next year because, let's be honest, he's probably going to be pretty terrible. His receivers aren't great. His running backs can't stay healthy, and his offensive line is awful. If there's one thing that matters the most is the supporting cast for young QBs. Look at Jared Goff first year. Awful on the Rams. Awful with Jeff Fisher and a terrible offensive line. Dwayne Haskins is in for a rough time, but their defense will keep them in games. They have a good defense.
Mm.
Now for another team that has a direction quite opposite of Washington is the New York Giants. And the New York Giants invested heavily in the offensive line to help out their young quarterback and not much in their front seven. Giants are my favorite team, so I really studied this draft class, watched all these players after the fact. Andrew Thomas will be able to jump right in there right from day one, starting left tackle, slide shoulder to the right, will immediately boost the offensive line. And then the developmental pick, not even developmental. Matt Pert is better than a lot of people give him credit for. He played at a terrible college in UConn. He has great intangibles, great length, great size, which people make him be classified as a potential or a developmental player. And he definitely is. He's not starting day one, but he's not as raw as people give him credit, as people make him out to be. He's he started, I think, 2 or 3 seasons at UConn. Great player there. And then they took Shane Lemieux from Oregon, a mauler in the run game who's worked on playing center. Those three players in their top 6 picks will help their offensive line so much from a depth standpoint and from just Andrew Thomas and maybe Pert or Lemieux get some starting reps. It's going to really help Daniel Jones out this year, I think.
Hmm. I agree. I think the offensive line depth was really key for them in this year's draft.
Yeah, and the additions of Xavier McKinney, great value there. Everyone gave him a first round grade. Many
I love Xavier
expected
McKinney.
many expected him to be taken by a team like Dallas or Jacksonville or Minnesota in the late first rounds. Giants had him there at 36, great value. You look at the Alabama safeties that have come out in the last 5 to 10 years, all of them are very, very good players. It's honestly the safest position to pick as an Alabama safety. Darnay Holmes, great athletic corner out of UCLA, very athletic, could probably slide in there, play some nickel. And then they went linebacker, 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 wait to add some linebacker depth. Giants front seven will not be that great next year, but they do have depth. They added 4 linebackers. They have Ryan Conley returning. David Mayo is all right. In addition to Blake Martinez, it's no Xavier. I'm not Xavier Simmons. It's no Isaiah Simmons, but Xavier McKinney is a baby Isaiah Simmons, and they added some linebacker depth. So Giants fans can't get mad over passing over a, I guess, unique prospect in Isaiah Simmons.
Mm.
Moving on to the most controversial team, probably in the entire draft, the Philadelphia. We can say Green Bay is, but the Philadelphia Eagles. Boy, oh boy, Kevin. Why was the Eagles draft so interesting, and why are some so high and yet some so low on it?
Well, I actually am one of the people who really likes what the Eagles did. I think they did fine. Yes, if you look at their draft first round, yes, they passed on Justin Jefferson, but if you read about what they wanted, that's not really what their guy. They wanted a guy who really is diverse and a guy who has a lot of speed to take the top off a defense, and that's what Jalen Reagor will provide. Jefferson, he's probably gonna put up more catches, probably going to have a better rookie season, because I think Rager and Jefferson both went to the better fit for each team. But I think Rager will do just fine. A lot of people uh, take that away from him. Like he has a lot of potential to be a good player. He's punt returner, kick returner, deep threat. He can play the slot. He does a lot. The next
He's
pick,
more explosive
yeah,
than Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's more of a traditional wide
yeah,
receiver. Philly really likes those explosive athlete, versatile kind of guys. And we had a high grade on Rieger too, not to butt in, but Rieger was an 88, Jefferson was a 91. So both were elite prospects. We had a late first round grade on Rieger.
yeah. And Jalen Hurts, their second round pick. Yes, this pick does not make a lot of sense, but I actually didn't think it was that bad. Um, Jalen Hurts is tough. He's a competitor, and he knows how to win football games. And the Eagles have not had the most luck with injuries as of late. So, and they're also one of the biggest backup quarterback like needy teams. They always have a top backup because they know Carson Wentz is made of glass. And Jalen Hurts can even play a Taysom Hill role when Wentz isn't hurt. So I think it's a good depth pick because maybe they can flip him for a first in a couple of years if he's actually really good. But I like the upside with him. I like the way he can play the game. Hell, you can use him as a running back if you really needed to. I'm sure he could catch the ball, throw it. I think he's a weapon.
Yeah, I think that pick for Philly was made because they don't want to invest money on their backup quarterback. They paid McCown and Foles a lot of money, and they only played a few games. But now you can care that draft capital was pricey for Hurts, but you don't feel bad to carry him on your roster for 4 years because he's making no money. And Wentz, his injury status is a tad bit overrated, but missing 8 games, and it feels like a crucial 8 games
Every year, end of the
in the last
season.
couple of
It's always
years,
the end of the season too.
like the playoff game last year, instead of having Josh McCown come in,
Jalen
you have a
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts who's been groomed the entire season. It's just Hurts played well at Oklahoma. He should be able to translate. I also really like the Jack Driscoll pick with Jason Peters leaving. Andre Dillard should slide into your left tackle spot. You don't know how much longer Wayne Johnson has.
Oh
You're
yeah,
really trying to get younger at tackle. You're hoping that he could develop in 2 years and maybe you have two young
that's
tackles. Even though Dillard did struggle last year, he's probably starting left tackle, I would say. But that was a solid pick right there for depth.
yeah. I also really liked what they did throughout the rest of the draft. Their first two picks were questionable to a lot of people, but the rest of the draft, Davion Taylor is a very fast outside linebacker. Some guy that could play a spy role really well. Some guy that he'll take some, but he's raw. He has a lot of potential. Kavon Wallace is a beast. Great safety. I'm a big fan of his. Driscoll, like you said, can slide in. He's a good depth player. Um, John Hightower, another wide receiver. He is a really slept on wide receiver. I think he actually fits more of what he's kind of like what Jefferson does, but he has a lot more speed to take the top off a defense. Sean Bradley from Temple is another fast linebacker they have to add to the core. Quez Watkins, same thing. And my favorite value pick, Prince Tega Wanogo from Auburn. They got both Auburn tackles, but Prince Tega is a guy that you got to watch out for. He has a lot of size. He's raw, but this offensive line is young, talented, and they have a lot of pieces for the future.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the offensive line because if the Eagles have a lead offensive line play, Wentz won't go down. And I think their draft wasn't terrible, but a lot of Philly fans who are hoping for contention would have liked Hurts to be another wide receiver like Denzel Mims or a cornerback or just a player that can come in, make an immediate impact. But I think if Wentz does go down, say week 13, and Philly's a game ahead of the division lead, which is very likely because the NFC East is not very good. I mean, they'll be ecstatic to have a backup quarterback with that potential. So it really all comes out to be is Philly gonna need Hurts? If they do, it's a good draft class. And that concludes our NFC East draft classes and ratings. We will be moving on to the NFC South later on this week, so stay tuned for more Good Iron Guys draft class reviews.